Shireen, welcome back from Australia. Thank you very much for some of the chocolates you brought back. That makes everyone in the office very happy here at CBC. But we don't really have much time to look back on the World Cup because the women have to get ready for Olympic qualifiers. But where we can look back on the World Cup is the performance and how it makes you feel, Shireen, heading into those Olympic qualifiers against Jamaica. What was the overall sense that you got for the women, the Canadian women at the World Cup?
So the last match was probably the most challenging for me professionally because you're witnessing despair and sadness. The Australia match was deflating. So moving forward to the Olympic qualifiers, I think it puts Canada in a really interesting position because there's no better way to recover than to get in it and move forward. And I think that's what's going to happen, and that's what Bev Priestman said in a post-game presser, that we're looking forward now. Everyone's got some time off. And then the team that they're facing, Jamaica. I mean, that's been an incredible story in this as well.
Well, and this is where, I think a lot of people have questions because, yes, they have yet to qualify for the Olympics. These are the Olympic champions. They want to be able to go back and defend that gold, but they do face the two games against Jamaica, who did much better than anyone would have anticipated. This is a team that needed to crowdfund to get to the World Cup. There were only 3 teams in the group stage that didn't concede a goal. Jamaica ended up being one of them. It took a lot for Colombia to even eliminate them in the round of 16. So now you have a team who's stingy defensively. And you have a Canadian team, the narrative going in, and continues to be the case, is a team that struggles to score. Are you worried for the Canadians?
The most important piece here is the psychological piece. Jamaica is coming off a high. Historically, they've done something that no other Caribbean team, man or woman, has ever done before, qualify for the next round beyond the group stages. So they're coming in hot, and they're coming in saying, we're ready, and Canada will have to meet that energy.
Well, I think a lot of eyes now are going to be on Bev Priestman and her decision-making because realistically, what kind of change will we see in the roster for those Olympic qualifiers? Is it a matter of changing your starting 11? Does she lean once again on the veterans? Will we see similar lineups?
Or will she even change some of the players on that squad? Will she pull back from players that didn't make it past a training camp? What does that look like? And so that's a possibility as well. Will there be huge shakeups? I don't know. I mean, meanwhile, in Canada, there was a cabinet shuffle. Might there be a shuffle in the roster here? We don't know.
Very true. But when it comes to Bev Priestman, Interim General Secretary Jason DeVos was asked about her and moving forward, as is pretty standard after, big tournaments, especially if they don't go the way that you planned. What happens to the manager? And it was kind of, sort of, a vote of confidence, kind of, sort of, but I wonder how these qualifiers will determine her fate. Do you think they will?
I mean, we'll see. I think that the players have a lot of faith in Priestman, and, after the match, that particular match against Australia, they were very quick to say this was on us. I didn't hear any complaints about that. A lot of other people, there was murmurings, and was it a decision making? Was it a managerial issue? Was she outcoached, for example? I mean, but the reality is when you're sitting there in that stadium and you see the energy of those players, you couldn't have stopped the Matildas if you had a brick wall in front of the net. I think the Olympic qualifiers will be telltale to what happens because Bev Priestman's contract is up at the end of the year. So we'll see what happens moving forward. And then you look at, are there options? There are options in Canadian soccer to be able to take that role. So will she be also fighting for her own spot?
With the women having a deal in place, and albeit again, it's temporary because I'm calling it the deal. It's nice that a deal's been done for the rest of the year. Focus on those qualifiers and then see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having to worry about negotiations, particularly when it's being done with players who are active, that's a lot. I think it's a lot. And if we look at structures in Australia, where there are players who are on a player association who are not active on a national program at the moment, so they're involved in domestic soccer, they're active players in that level, they negotiate. But for now, that they have a temporary deal, an interim deal in place, they can focus on the soccer. Because ideally, what we want to have in Canada, and when I mean we, I mean supporters, media, is have the team be able to focus on what they do best, which is soccer. And there were distractions, and you're right. They said that this loss is on us, but it's hard when you reflect and you analyze the whole year and what has happened. If you do a timeline, it's hard not to put those factors and variables and say this affected the outcome. The result was a product of many different things. Mainly, yes, that playing and what it looked like and how it didn't hit. But there's other factors as well. So the fact that they may not have to worry about that, that's a good thing.
Because those are two big games coming up in September against Jamaica. They want to be in Paris 2024. We want them
Yes.
to be in Paris 2024. Thanks, Shireen.